Let's talk a little bit about the gravel bike. You can see my beauty pictured in the background right here. It's been a while since I've been on her, but happy I can bring her out and talk about it a little bit. So before even getting into the specs, components of my bike, before getting into gravel and choosing a bike, there's a few things you can do to kind of help you find the right one. So just ask yourself the questions. Basically, where are you going to be riding most of the time? Is it going to be um, smooth gravel roads, not very technical? Is it going to be chunky gravel, dirt, mud? Obviously, gravel kind of crosses a wide spectrum of different surfaces and things of that such. So ask yourself that, and then basically how are you going to be using this bike? Are you going to be racing with it? Are you just going to be going out on long joy rides? So that, take all those factors into consideration, and that can help you narrow down the selection of your bike. So now to talk about mine a little bit, I went with a custom Lemire gravel frame 56 centimeter bike. um, when I was asking myself these questions, I knew the where and how. I would mainly be riding kind of again, a wide spectrum of different roads and such, whether they're muddy, clay, sandy. But I think the more important factor for me was like, how was I going to be using this bike? And to me, that was racing or competing. So like, that means that meant for me, I wanted a light bike. I want something that was quick, snappy. I think I just said light. Yeah, just said light. But then another big thing I was going through was between the 56 and 58 centimeter bike. Ultimately, I ended up going with the 56. I previously rode a 58, but that was a little bit more laxed and kind of for longer rides. I'm not racing, but I just liked the way the 56 fit me in terms of how aggressive of position I could get in to race. Also for climbing hills, it was a lot easier. I could get going a lot faster. So that's part of the reason, why I ultimately went with this bike. Um, as far as like components and setup, I have it set up with the Shimano GRX Di2 group set. For the most part, I know when this first came out, the GRX group set is mainly, well, it is built specifically for gravel riding. Not all the pieces though were available just due to high demand, so not quite everything's on there is GRX, but for the most part it is, like everything from the brakes, I believe. um, yeah, the brakes, obviously the electronic shifting. But anyways, just to keep getting into it, to talk about drivetrain, and maybe you can see it a little bit there. I will get closer, but I want to make sure you can hear me. I went with the 2x11 drivetrain with a 1132 cassette in the rear, and then a 4630T, I believe, on the chainring. I know there is some debate between the 2x11 setup or the 1x setup. So basically, in front there, you can see that I went with the 2x for a few reasons, and again, it's back to how you're going to be using this bike. But mainly, I knew I'd be doing a little road riding, and I also wanted just more gear ranges, or to kind of find that right gear. And I knew the 2x11 setup would give me that versus the 1x setup. So I just had a wider range of gear capabilities to take on basically any terrain, no matter where I'm racing or riding. um, let's see here, a few other things. The handlebar, I have a Shimano Vibe alloy handlebar, and this just, when you're on gravel, it gets really chattery, bumpy, or maybe the right words for that. So just to have a little give, that's what that Shimano handlebar does for me. And then also those handlebars, I have some lizard skins for some extra padding on those chunky, bumpy roads. And maybe last thing to touch on here is tires. So I run 700 by 38 C tires, which is, I'd say, pretty much the standard. 38 is, it gives you enough width in terms of how wide that tire is. And then also running HED Vanquish rims. So those are carbon, super light. Those babies can fly. So as far as the actual tires on there, I got a little knobbies on there. Maybe for the dam race, I could have went with a few more slicks, but I didn't really train too much on those, so I didn't want to change anything before race day. But that's something I would encourage you guys to test out when choosing your tire types, and it's obviously dependent on weather and conditions too. But yeah, back again to the questions to ask yourself when getting a bike. It's where you're going to be using it and how you're going to be using it to help you pick out the best bike for yourself.